Folks, picture this. I'm kicking back on my front stoop in quiet Little Maple Ridge one crisp autumn morning, nursing a black coffee strong enough to wake the dead, when out of nowhere my neighbor Vic marches up, face twisted like he'd swallowed a lemon whole, and barks, "Tom, that old oak tree of yours is dropping leaves all over my driveway. Cut it down, or I'll sick the HOA on you till you're buried in paperwork." I nearly spit out my Joe, staring at him like he'd lost his damn mind. Because what the hell? I'd just settled into this cozy corner of suburbia after my divorce hit like a freight train, leaving me with this fixer-upper house my aunt left me, complete with a sprawling backyard perfect for my little woodworking shop. Nothing flashy, just a spot to carve birdhouses and forget the world for a bit. But Vic? He's the self-appointed sheriff of Pine Hollow Estates. Been running the HOA like his personal fiefdom ever since his business tanked, and he started pouring all that frustration into micromanaging everyone's curb appeal. Turns out, it wasn't just the leaves. It was me, the new guy, shaking up his tidy kingdom with my rustic vibes, reminding him too much of how his own dreams got pruned back years ago when my aunt outbid him on this very plot in a heated auction, a grudge he'd nursed like fine wine gone sour. That first jab hit deep, left me reeling inside, questioning if starting fresh here was just another bad call in a string of them. Lying awake that night with the wind rustling those oak branches outside my window, feeling that old loneliness creep in like fog. Why do folks lash out over something as harmless as a tree? Or was it really about control, about not letting someone like me carve out my own space in their perfect little bubble? It didn't stop there. No, it snowballed faster than a kid's fib at a family reunion, turning my quiet haven into a battlefield I never signed up for. Vic starts whispering poison at the monthly HOA gatherings, rallying the troops with tales of how my messy shop is going to drag down home values, dredging up that old auction beef like it happened yesterday, how my aunt stole the land from under his nose when he was counting on it to flip for his failing venture capital gig. Pure envy, masked as community pride, because deep down, seeing me thrive in that space gnawed at him. A reminder of his own failures stacking up like unpaid bills. Then come the notices, those crisp, official envelopes stuffed in my mailbox, citing unsightly structures and noise violations. Even though I double-checked every permit with the town hall, my hands shaking as I tore them open. One sweltering afternoon, I'm out in the shop sanding a cedar bench, sweat dripping, mind finally at peace with the whir of the sander drowning out my ex's echoes in my head, when Vic's sidekick Rita from next door leans over the fence, all saccharine smile hiding venom, and hisses, "Tom, darling, that racket's scaring my precious poodle. Keep it up, and we'll vote to zone your whole yard commercial. Watch your little hobby vanish." I pause the tool, dust settling around me like fallout, and shoot back with a wry grin masking the hurt. "Rita, if your dog's that jumpy, maybe it's all those fireworks you set off every 4th. Mind your own bangs, huh?" But inside, it burned, that miffed chuckle turning to a slow boil as fines trickled in. $300 for excessive debris, another $150 for non-conforming foliage, eating into my savings while I juggled night shifts at the hardware store just to keep the lights on. I started digging, poring over old HOA minutes late into the night, coffee gone cold, uncovering how Vic had stacked the board with his cronies, his brother-in-law on finance, Rita on compliance, all to push agendas that lined his pockets, like steering landscaping contracts to his nephew's firm. The isolation hit hard, neighbors averting eyes at the grocery store, whispers following me like shadows, making me doubt myself deeper. Was I the problem, the stubborn newcomer refusing to play ball, or were they the ones trapped in a web of small-town power plays, afraid of anyone who didn't fit the mold? But that gnawing suspicion grew. Vic wasn't just petty. He was scheming, eyeing my land for a buffer zone to his own property flip, manipulating rules to force a sale, his greed bubbling under that folksy facade. I confided in old man Ellis down the block, a retired vet who'd seen his share of battles, over beers on his porch one evening as the sun dipped low, him nodding sagely. "Son, it's not the trite's what it represents. Freedom he lost, and he's hell-bent on clipping yours." That chat lit a spark, but the pressure mounted, me pacing my living room at 2 a.m., fists clenched, wondering if fighting back meant becoming like them, or if folding would crush what little spirit I had left after the divorce ripped me raw. Community, my ass. This felt like a siege, testing if I had the guts to hold the fort or wave the white flag. Then came the turnaround, sharp and satisfying as a plot twist in one of those gritty thrillers you binge on a rainy weekend. Unreal. Almost poetic, the kind of moment that replays in your head with epic swells of music. I'd gathered my ammo, those shady HOA emails I'd sweet-talked out of a sympathetic secretary, plus aerial surveys proving my boundaries were ironclad, and marched into the annual town hall assembly, heart hammering like a drum solo, no polished speech, just raw truth spilling out in my flannel shirt and work boots. "Listen up, everyone," I said, voice steady despite the knot in my throat, spreading the papers on the podium like cards in a high-stakes poker game. "Vic here's been pulling strings not for the neighborhood, but to snag my land cheap falsified votes, backroom deals with developers eyeing our quiet streets for condos, all because he can't let go of a decades-old grudge over an auction he lost fair and square." The crowd murmured, eyes widening as I read aloud from the leaks, Vic leaping up red-faced and sputtering. "That's libel. You outsider, I'll sue you into the ground." But I held firm, countering with a calm edge. "Go ahead, Vic. Truth's my shield. And your blusters just smoke admit it. This is payback for your ego, not some noble cause." Chaos erupted then. Rita shrinking in her seat as folks turned. Old man Ellis booming from the back. "I've got records too. Vic's been skimming dues for years." The vote flipped like a switch. HOA reforms passed on the spot. My fines wiped clean with a hefty reimbursement check that covered my legal fees, and then some. I stepped out into the cool evening air, that oak tree silhouetted against the twilight sky like a sentinel, a quiet laugh escaping as I imagined Vic stewing in his McMansion, his empire crumbling under the weight of his own schemes. Planting a new sapling right on the disputed edge the next day felt like sweet poetry, its leaves rustling in the breeze as Vic drove by, averting his gaze. Defeated but seething vindication tasted like fresh air after a storm, mending those inner fractures, turning my solitary fight into a badge of resilience, proving that sometimes standing your ground plants roots deeper than any grudge can uproot. Yet, as the dust settled and neighbors started nodding hello again, a nagging doubt lingered. Did exposing Vic heal the rift, or just swap one bully for another? Maybe me, wielding truth like a weapon? These HOA tangles, they're messy, right? Power, envy, old wounds festering under manicured lawns. Does justice really win, or does it just redraw the battle lines? Drop your thoughts in the comments. What's your wildest neighbor war story? Who's right in these community clashes, the holdout or the enforcer? Share away. Let's unpack this together.